keep it real and stay. Flipping keys, no way. Eating good, I got a lot on my plate. But this is what I wanted, so I can't complain.
The Minority Reports Podcast, where we keep it real, estate, and entrepreneurship education for the minority of 3% action takers. Here's your host, Billy the Kid, and co-host, Dan Delgado.
Oh, look at him. I always look forward. Every week I look forward to what's going to be like this week.
What is it like?
Is it going to be a weak one? Is it going to be a strong
I've been practicing, bro.
I'm glad, man. It's your thing.
It's growth, man. You gotta practice if you want to get better.
Push the limits.
Once I get to my 10,000 hours of my horn. It's weird looking at you face to face.
I know, it is weird. Like, first time we tried a round table.
Yeah. And I think in the future, our goal is to do a round table probably.
Yeah, it's probably
likely,
easier
but
for our guests.
We're trying it out on this one. Great story today. But before we get into it, man, how's your week?
Oh, man, it was stressful, dude. Like, we had it was kind of like bleeding over from last week. It was a whole phone system migration thing at my day job. And
man, so you've just been...
Yeah, I was out of town for 4 days at one of our sites and doing that. And it was frustrating, man. Like, the vendor that sold us the system, like, it's just constant, overpromise type thing. And when we go to put it in place, it was nothing like we were told. And it was a mess. We got to figure it out. We always do, but it was stressful. I'm glad to be back home.
No, good to hear. Yeah, I've been just kind of catching up the whole week, literally, like just, but it was good. What's nice is to have systems in place that really you can take yourself away and be gone. And it worked out, but, coming back and, there's, like city letters that I have to deal with for some properties and anyways, but stuff got taken care of. So yeah, I'm excited to look for this next week. And
so what happens when you take a vacation? You gotta
I know.
Take care of all the stuff that you missed.
I already bought my next flights too.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
For when?
It's in September. So we'll talk
damn,
more
dude, that's like no time. All right. Cool.
Yeah. I'm excited for
Billy's
that.
Billy's gonna be on the beach again, guys. Oh boy.
Be ready for my pictures.
Rolling around in the sand again.
But I got book of the week again.
No, not again. I feel like I stole it from you last week because I forced you.
No, it was my turn last week.
No, I know it was, but it wasn't the book that you wanted to do. So let's just do the book that you want.
It transitioned. So yeah, I'll have you do like the next 2 or something.
That's fine.
But no, the one that I have, it's a classic, simple, and it's The Richest Man in Babylon or Babylon. I always say it like that for some reason. And it's by George Clason. Very simple to read, and it's really simple. The idea behind it is really simple. Basically, no matter how much money or little you earn, set aside at least 10% of your earnings before you spend on anything else. It's a great book. If you're just starting out, I would say it's probably top 5, 10 that you should probably get on.
I think I tried to start reading that one, and for some reason it just didn't grasp me.
It's like a certain era.
Yeah, I mean, because I think of Thinking Real Rich was a certain era too.
Yeah, but this one's like
further back.
Egypt. I don't know, and maybe it's been a while that I've read it, but it's like gold. Like they're talking about gold, and so it's really way back. But really, essentially, that's what it comes down to. Live within your means, and it's crazy. Just think of, they were already talking about these things in that time. That's what amazes me, and basically once you start saving, and spending less, live within your means, then that's when you make money work for you. And then invest money. Think of every dollar you make a little worker that works for you. And I'll leave it with that. Simple book, like I said.
Not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, and exactly. And you could look at it as simple. And I'm pretty sure the book even says it 10 cents for every dollar, or even a penny for, so they really put it in simple terms. But there's a lot of stories, but make sure when you read it or listen to it, you catch on the important parts. But
maybe I'll try it again.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you said that. I've done it. I've listened to it 3 times already. Oh, yeah. And I think this last 3rd time I was halfway done, and I kind of jumped on the next one. But it's a great book. But yeah, check it out. But yeah, today, man, you want to let them know of our guest?
I'll let you let them know.
Let's bring him in.
All right.
All right. We have Paul in the building. Man, go ahead and introduce yourself, Paul.
Hey guys, it's Paul and I own an ugly motel.
Every time you say that.
Dude, you sound like the Motel. Is it the Motel 6 guy? He's like, we'll leave the light on for you. Or just
Leave the light on for you.
Yeah. I'm like, every time you say that, it sounds just like it.
And I'm excited. First of all, thanks for having us and finally making up some time. I know you're a busy dude, like everywhere. I mean, you're all over social media, YouTube. So it's I love everything that you're doing. So thanks for making up time finally.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. And thanks for having us here. We are in the building right now, but we'll get into your whole story. We'll start from the beginning. If you basically let us know if you went to school and where you come from, where you're from.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Socorro, New Mexico originally. And I went to Socorro High School. I mean, my dad was in the Air Force, so before that we traveled around Misawa, Japan, places like that. But yeah, I'm a product of New Mexico education system. We're a little bit strange. Business-wise, I guess I'd start off at like six years old. I started off by asking for a snow cone machine for my birthday, and
nice.
That summer, so I'm born in April, so that summer I went around and I sold snow cones to all my neighbors in the apartment complex.
That's like the perfect timing right there, right before the summer.
Yep, I knew a bike was out of the question, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make enough money to buy a bike, and so that's what we did. So, that's what I did. We got the bike, so that's fun. And then from Socorro, I joined the Navy, submarine force. And at 18, I bought my first house, rented it out to my shipmates as we were underway. But then I think about, again, submarines, we don't actually get any time in port, So, yeah. The house just stayed immaculate the entire time. We had one guy that was on a boomer class submarine. So, he was in when we were out. We were always out. And then, the guys that were on the same boat as me, we got to spend maybe, a couple of hours a week inside of the house. So, it stayed in pretty good condition.
Yeah.
And, if we all decided, hey, we want to upgrade this, we just all chipped in our money. So, for me,
but
my first house. Yeah, it was my house. Yeah.
So that's amazing. So it was like house hacking, really.
Yeah,
it was like, did you know, were you doing that on purpose at the time, or was it just convenient?
No. So I've always had, I remember I had this like epiphany, like early on in my life, something that probably changed the rest of my life. I remember thinking at a very early age, why does my dad pay rent to this other person, this landlord, right? Why doesn't my dad just become the landlord? And so for me, that's always stuck with me. So I've always had this mindset that I wanted to buy houses. I'm in love with two different games, Monopoly, and then I'm sure you've heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad's game, Cash Flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if I ever get enough people together, I always try to force them to play this game with me.
Yeah.
So long story short, that's kind of how it started. Just that mindset. So at 18, I wanted to buy a house. I was in Hawaii, I was sitting on the beach. We finally got some time off, some liberty, and my buddy, he's like, oh yeah, I'll send the paperwork for you. That's before you could do all this stuff electronically. So we had to go through this whole power of attorney thing and everything. But long story short, I was on the beach when I made the final phone call to close my house.
Nice.
And then, he moved in, so he got to be inside the house before I did, which is weird, But yeah, so that was my first house.
And that's when you were going to college, you said?
No, that's when I was in the Navy.
In the Navy, okay.
I did 4 years, torpedoman, submarines, Seawolf class submarine, if anybody out there, follows a lot of that stuff. And then my wife gave me a really interesting ultimatum right around the time that I had a choice to reenlist, right? So I had a couple different choices. I could reenlist, $55,000 reenlistment bonus. Yay. I was at E5 or whatever. So good chance of me being able to advance faster. Or I just qualified for E5. So I was E4, about to become E5. Or I could have taken up, I got this weapons handling job, starts every morning at 4, paid north of 100,000. I was like, well, that's what I'll do, And my wife said, or at the time, my girlfriend, she goes, well, if you reenlist or if you, choose the torpedo thing, then I think we're going to break up. I'm like, I'm like, can we talk about this? She's like, no, those are kind of the options. My wife, out of anybody that is hardcore, when she gets involved in a deal, I get scared a little bit, because I don't know if you saw this or not. I mean, I don't know if I want this on the video or not either, but my wife decided to call out the mayor on Twitter, and then immediately the mayor decided to start following her back. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, my wife, she's the type, she's the smart person that's able to speak the same language as the rest of the bureaucrats. I'm the dreamer, the guy that's like, no, I'll just make it work. You know,
Yeah,
she's like, no, yeah, she's that things have to be a certain way or they're just not going to happen. So,
and I love that because it's like that balance, right? Yep. Like with the relationship. So
you need the balance. Yeah. She is that side of the balance for me. She is the conservative version of. I'm not saying that I'm extremely frugal. Again, I this is what I wear on a daily basis. Yeah. I saw one person left a comment on the first Journal Star thing that said, you know, if you didn't spend so much money on fancy cars and clothes. I'm like, I drove a Prius for 20 years. 20 years. I do stuff that needs a truck. So I mean, using a Prius to remodel houses, you know, I am frugal.
Real quick, since we're in the subject, Paul, one thing that has stuck to me since I've been following you and we've met and stuff, it reminds me of me. Have you ever seen that picture of Adam Sandler wearing like gym shorts and sandals? And people basically, it was like a meme saying, you know, basically no matter how much money he has, like he's still just, and I think that's
so you're comparing yourself to Adam Sandler?
Bro, I'm the Adam Sandler of Lincoln, bro. No, but that picture stuck to me because, and like I said, it as soon as I saw, the times I've seen you and on social media, you're wearing the same thing. Like, actually, I mean, let's be a creeper. Check me out, man.
Imagine you were 20.
But I love that because I feel like, you know, more than money, that's the freedom, right? This is the freedom that and actually sometimes my guys, you know, I do construction and they'll be like, you should probably wear some shoes when you come, which that makes sense.
Remodel days,
yeah. But anyways, I love that freedom and it shows and you could tell you're humble, but go ahead.
But yeah, no, I agree 100%, man. I've had my same sandals. That's I get yelled at all the time. I'm gonna get in trouble with OSHA one of these days, but you know, whatever. I tile barefoot, you know.
Yeah.
But no, so my wife gave me the ultimatum. She said, hey, either move to Nebraska because she decided she's going to Concordia, you know, so Concordia out of Seward. And I was like, there's Concordia up here in Portland, Oregon. We could be really close. She goes, no, I'm going to Seward. So I said, okay. I guess I'm going to UNL. You know? So, I mean, that was it.
You follow her
pretty much, man.
Nebraska.
And that's kind of been, you know, and it's interesting when I think about this because it kind of is me following her where she wants to go. I want to make sure she's happy, you know, to make sure I can do whatever I want to do wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
You know? I don't really care. I'll just, you know, so I moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, started my degree, 2011. So I went to UNL, graduated in 2013.
I want to point out before you continue with that, you kept the house, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what's amazing. It seems like all the deals that you've done, kind of just living in them and you still own them, right?
Well,
or most of them.
So I actually had to sell quite a few houses to pay for this thing. So unfortunately, it's one of those nice, like, I knew I had to do it at some point. So, and this is kind of skipping ahead a little bit because when we were getting shut down for this thing, I had just sold my really nice flip on Nottingham Court. In Lincoln. I had just sold my house up in Washington, and we had just sold, I think, another house in Seward. And so I had this pot of money. Plus, we were finally making a profit, and you know, we'll get to that here in a second.
Yeah, right.
But you know, so I had a plan of being able just to remodel all at once.
Yeah.
So that way, I wasn't doing little things here and there because I feel like that was the main issue with this building. I feel like people have been trying to catch up and they never catch up.
Exactly,
so my thought was, let it help the people that need to be helped on the bottom for right now, and then we'll come in and we'll just bam, remodel.
Exactly.
So
continue on. I just wanted to point that out.
So I went to UNL. Got out of the Navy. We had a summer off. I think it's the last time I had a vacation in 2011. We went up to Canada. That was great. And so I moved into Lincoln and I bought another house. You know, this time it was an owner finance deal, right? The nice thing with serving the military, you get they'll pay for your BAH, they'll pay for your basic housing, they'll pay for your education, and they give you a small stipend, you know, to live off of. So that was my plan, you know. And of course, I house hacked that. So I bought a 3-bedroom. I lived in the basement, you know, the unfinished basement, and I rented out the 2 upstairs bedrooms. And I think at the time my goal was just to pay it off fast, right? So I paid down that mortgage quite a bit. I think we paid it down almost like half.
From when I've listened to your story, you've pretty much you haven't done what most people do, where the 2 rooms that you rented or whatever pay for the mortgage, and then you pocket the rest and you live your life. Like, you actually threw more on I always say fire, but it's not.
I
burning your money. But
the way I look at each business is the goal should be the business pays for that business. That house should pay for that house. That that whatever. So we have a couple different LLCs, and I'm finally trying to move stuff out of my name into different LLCs. But the thought is, this hotel should pay for this hotel, and it's driving my wife crazy right now. The last couple of months we've been having to take out personal savings. Yeah. I mean, it says something that I was able to float a hotel for a year.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. That's amazing. So, I mean, only 2 months, and you just started with your savings. But we'll touch on that more later, because that's amazing. Back to
college. UNL. So I am an alumni. I feel like I probably need to reach out to UNL and try to get them to I don't know, just a sponsor or something, be like, hey guys, I am a product of your business, whatever. I graduated in 2 years too. Yeah. So, I mean, again,
that's fast.
Again, ADHD kid, I have 1,000 irons in the fire. I need to get things going. And also I kind of wanted to beat my wife to graduation because, I started 2 years after. So, interesting thing, so we bought that townhouse, and then towards the end of college, I bought a Four-Plex, and then I also bought a house in Seward that we moved into during our last year of college. So in 2 years, we bought a few properties. We got married, moved to Seward, and my wife graduated from her DCE program, and she got a call in Columbus, right? And so we went up to Columbus, Nebraska. We moved up there, we bought another house, and we rented out the other ones, right? So those are all cash flowing. That's fine. But I'm the type of person that I have to be busy. If I'm not busy, I'm depressed, And I think that's the reason why I tile too, because it's like my artistic outflow. If I'm not able to do something entrepreneurial at the time, I like doing tile work or something that
I think construction is art.
Yeah, it's
like it really is. Yeah, it really. It could be a roof. There's certain ways, and I love the way it looks halfway done, or even starting. Like it's art. I really do believe that, and that's probably why I like it too. But anyways, continue.
That's why the situation right now is giving me so much anxiety, is because I'm not able to. I don't want to say super obsessed or whatever on the things. If I'm doing a tile job, I want to be the one tiling it, because it's my therapy, And so, I'm teaching, my guys how to tile, and that's great, and there's mistakes that drive me nuts, but you learn from them, and you have to learn to accept criticism and not be personally offended.
I love that about you, Paul, that I swear every other post, it's always like, I did this, but here's my mistake. I love that about you. And if you could touch on that a little bit while we're in the subject.
I have a huge belief. So buying a hotel, I could not find anybody else's story that said, hey, these are the lessons learned, and so I believe 100% that people need to be transparent, because if you can learn from somebody else's mistakes, then you don't have to make the same mistakes. If there's something really dumb, I love people that are extremely OCD. They drive me nuts with their OCD, I'm the opposite. I need somebody to point out my mistakes. And so once I do something a certain way and I like it, then that's the way it has to be. But if they see something that I don't see and they tell me how to fix it, or they, that makes me better, And so I like to post issues, or I like to show issues of things that we did wrong, or things that somebody else would prefer done a certain way, so that way other people can learn from it.
And that's how your channel started, really, from what I remember. It was basically to portray your errors, like your mistakes, and even the time that I've met you is basically to hopefully help somebody, which this is why we started this podcast, was to hopefully help somebody out there that, won't make the mistakes that we did. But I love that about you. I just want to throw that out there. And one of the things we do in this podcast, man, we like to give flowers where they're due, and that's why we're here to give you
I'd rather give props than flowers, but that's his
like, is there a rose coming out?
More sentimental. I'm super sentimental.
Yeah, Billy's super romantic.
Romantic.
I'll keep it at props.
But yeah, go ahead, man.
So I mean, that's where the channel was born. I'm like, hey, before I bought this place, it had gone through a series of owners that owned it for like 1 year at a time. There was one guy that had owned it that literally was basically renting it out to other people, and they would there'd be a new owner, there'd be a new name, there'd be a new owner, there'd be a new name, there'd be a new one. And so I had to decide, okay, well, either A, I'm going to make it through this thing. I'm just going to, just going to keep going. I don't care. I'm just going to grind until it's done. Or somebody else needs to learn my mistakes so that way they don't make the same mistake with this building. Because again, it's a sentimental thing. I really, I don't want to see it knocked down. I like this building. I love this building, and I hate this building at the same time. I mean, it's a love and hate thing. Yeah. That pool right there, man, I've spent so much money on it, and I know the right answer is to fill it in. And I know the right answer is to put a new ballroom, and then we become the conference center of Lincoln, whatever. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to make that pool work.
Put some work in there already. Yeah.
I'm going to make that pool work. Yeah. And
can Dan come in and do with a Speedo and whenever you first open it?
Sure. You guys on a calendar? UglyMotel calendar. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, great fundraising idea.
How did you? There you go. How did you go from essentially you were house hacking and buying a few single, or you had some multifamily, but how do you even like come up with the idea to do a hotel? Because I don't think that really comes up.
So
a lot of people.
It's interesting. Again, so I get bored, and I'm the type of person who likes to try to push my limits. I will not. If you look up Seawolf class submarines, they are the most challenging. I had a choice to do a submarine out of Hawaii, right? I had a choice to do a couple different options, and I chose the Seawolf class because it is the most challenging. It's also the most fun, So I don't like taking on things that are boring. I got a job offer the other day from a buddy of mine wants me to come do some engineering. I don't have a degree in engineering, but he knows me enough that he knows I can do the job with engineering, and they would pay enough to keep my lifestyle going, I guess, if I wanted to do that. I want to do something that's not. If Elon Musk came in here, and there's a good keyword for that, when people are searching Elon Musk, if Elon Musk came and said, "Hey, I want you to head up something," I'd probably be like, "All right, that's I'll take on something with you," But other than that, I can't see myself doing something that wouldn't be pushing the edge. So with this, I literally was just searching, for other houses to buy and to rent out and stuff like that. And then I was like, well, I like doing mind games, and I like trying to see how do people get to the next step. How do you become the landlord? Okay, well, how do you become what's above the landlord? How do you become a hotel owner? How do you become the mayor? By the way, TheUglyMotel.com, I own it. MayorofLincoln.com, I own it. Check it out. Anyhow, so how do you become?
I figured you would get a kick because he's IT all the way. So, anyways.
I was like, just having all these domain names.
Yeah. I've made a lot of buddies through it, though. I mean, I tell you what, I have some friends in Florida right now that are rooting for me. I have this one guy. He manages. His name is Bruce Jordan, right? His slogan is he's the Michael Jordan of the hotel world. He has a YouTube channel too. But again, he's one of those guys that gets a kick out of just getting like the most complicated properties, and you meet people when you're there at the edge, So I was checking out how to buy a hotel, and I came up on this one. And
can you point out how old you were? Please.
So I was 25 years old. I was 24-ish, 25, turning 25. I just turned 25.
And also, before you continue on, also you're 24, 25. And can you point out your mindset when you bought it? Because one thing I love, you said you love Monopoly. So if you could,
well, they buy hotels in Monopoly.
Yeah,
so. But listen, go ahead.
At that point, we had 5 greenhouses. I mean, they weren't green, but what's the next step? You got to get the hotel. Yeah. So it was a joke going forward, but it was 100% serious. And what was it? It was interesting though too. I literally had to put everything as collateral. Yeah. Because again, how do you buy a hotel at 25? You have to basically put all your eggs in one basket, because the bank's like, okay, yeah, we get that the property is worth at least the 1.5 you're buying it for, but you're asking for another 200,000 on top of that. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And they're like, well, we want the equity. We see you've paid everything down. We want the equity from those properties. So we're gonna put we're gonna put a lien on those properties. And so that's become one of those things that's kind of locked me up. I have a fully paid off Four-Plex. I think probably this year worth probably over $300,000. I can't take a mortgage.
And real quick on that, and that's what I meant earlier. So I love that you've basically your mindset with that is, okay, here's my mortgage, but I'm going to pay more into it. So I think not just that property, but there's a few of them that you kind of paid off, and which is great. But go ahead.
So me and my wife, we're kind of that mix between Robert Kiyosaki, let's leverage the heck out of stuff, and Dave Ramsey, where it's like, let's pay stuff down, The only reason we've survived this long is because my wife is all about saving. She swipes my income. She's like, okay, no, this is how much you're going to pay us. And by the way, for the first 6 years, we didn't give ourselves a paycheck at all. Okay. And finally in year 7, finally the year that everything started going to chaos, we were finally starting to pay ourselves a small salary for the first time since I bought this thing, so that's also interesting. But, she's made sure that out of our rental income, when something's paid off or when she likes sinking funds, she likes to put money aside just in case an air conditioner goes out, just in case that somebody destroys an entire unit, so she's been able to make sure that we have all this stuff saved aside. And she basically says, no, this is how much you have to play with, and some people need an allowance. I didn't realize until this conversation that I had an allowance, but essentially that's what right. In reality, I was, it's like, well, okay, whatever you do, weird things at the hotel, those money making things, you play with that, and then I'll keep saving on the side. So she invests in really conservative things like American Century Fund, CDs, that kind of stuff. Things that I normally would be like, that's a waste of money.
Right.
But at the end of the day,
And that's what I love is that leverage between you guys. But
and it's definitely paid off this year. Nobody expected a pandemic, nobody expected a situation where the city can tell me, no, you can't open up for 325 days.
And before we continue on, Paul, I know you mentioned the snow cone machine. I always like to pick that seed where it was planted with entrepreneurship. Would you say that's what it was, or was it your family? Like, when was it that you were kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna do my own stuff. I'm gonna be an entrepreneur.
So I don't want to say I grew up like really poor because my dad took offense to that, but we didn't grow up wealthy, right? Mm-hmm. They rented. They still, well, I guess now they don't rent, but as long as I lived with them, they rented. And my dad works really hard. He's always said work smarter, not harder. But he's the hardest working guy that I know. And it's always one of those things. He's always got a second thing that he's trying to do. Mm-hmm. And just mentally right off the bat, I've always kind of thought about, if I wasn't selling snow cones and I was trying to sell, the books that I saw that he had stored up inside of a room while he's at work, or I was trying to do something else. I sold papers at 12. I worked for McDonald's at 14. I always had to have something going. I had to have some kind of way to make income. Mm-hmm. I flipped a car at one point when I was, in high school or whatever. I went to college in high school. I had these weird little things that, I did because I had to stay busy, and definitely a strange kid. Don't get me wrong. But I was also, I was a Pokemon master, which by the way was a big deal, in the 6th grade. I was a Pokemon master, but I didn't do it because I was able to buy my cards. I did it because I was able to play for keeps with people. I did it because I was able to trade, I think that kind of stuff is what kind of stuck with me and kind of developed me. I think the one thought about, how do I become the landlord is probably what kind of led me down this path, my wife keeps harping on something this year about, our end goal isn't to own a hotel. Our end goal isn't to just have something sit there. Our end goal is to have the freedom that comes with having a bunch of passive income, And this year has been really interesting because, again, in prior years, our income could be, as high as $70,000 a month, but this year and over the last, 365 days, it's become a negative thing, And so it's like, well, are we living our life for the right goals right now? I'm sacrificing time with my family, sacrificing time with my, my kids as they're really early. This is the time we planned our kids to grow up right when the hotel. So everybody says that it takes 7 years for a hotel to either, for somebody to either sell it, flip it, do whatever for it to either. Most hotels cascade down, so it goes from a Holiday Inn to a Howard Johnson to no offense to Howard Johnson, because they are part of Wyndham. And then they go down to like an independent level. It's really hard to get back up, right? I have an uncle-in-law who...
Which that's one thing that I learned. I didn't know that there were, once you get into corporations, there's that first level, then you kind of work your way up.
And most people don't try it unless you're trying to do something like the Cornhusker, where they are an iconic historical hotel, which again would be my end goal here. I'd be like, no, look, we had Terms of Endearment filmed here. We used to be the hotel that the Huskers used to stay at. This is where Paul got started. So I mean, I want this to be. I want to climb back.
You
up the
have
ladder.
A poster, don't you, from that movie?
No. Probably not that movie.
Or you said you were going to put, I don't know. I read that on your social media that you were going to throw something up.
My lobby in the future, I've played with 1,000 different ideas what I want my lobby to look like when I'm actually finally doing this. Because again, what the heck do I do with this dome? Domes don't make sense anymore. People were a lot more hardy in the 60s and 70s. They wanted AC. Right now, I'm hot. Right. It's like, well, in the middle of summer, people don't want to come here unless they expect it to be hot. Joshua Nix actually sent me pictures from Holodome that got really well remodeled. I think it's in Grand Island. And he's like, man, these hallways are hot. I'm like, that's what a PTAC unit does. It's the exhaust of the heat, you know, but nobody's shutting them down over the heat.
Right. Yeah.
So the question is, what do I do here? And my thought was either I can focus on like the history of Nebraska as you're coming in. Maybe we can do Terms of Endearment was filmed here. This senator stayed here. This happened here, you know, or maybe I make it into kind of almost, you know, kind of a reflection of like Mahoney State Park, kind of bring it in with like some fish tanks or something, maybe some different highlights of what you can do in the area and like, you know, travel guide as you walk in, you know. I want it to stand out in a certain way. I have to get to a certain point where one, everything inside the hotel functions the way it should. The big hard thing when I bought the place, I didn't know. I mean, I knew what a boiler and chiller system was. I was on a submarine.
And real quick, So when you bought these houses, right? So the question that I have for you is, what's the difference between and it's a crazy question. Like, what's the difference between buying a single family home or even a duplex or a four-plex or to owning a hotel?
Nothing at all. It's exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm just no. So that's the thing. I mean,
that's what you thought, right?
At 25, I'm like, the problem with this place is it's ugly. Somebody needs to come in and give it some love, and you know, update the floors, repaint it, put in some nice pillows. You know, bam, done. That's you know, I had all the answers at 25, and you know, in reality, everything that breaks here is a $10,000 to $100,000 to $1 million fix. You know. One of the things that I did most recently that I'm really happy with, the most cost saving thing ever was, and it was because it exploded. My boiler that did the hot water for this place, somebody had been maintaining it for the last, you know, 30, 40, well, let's say 1960, 50, 60 years, you know, so they've been maintaining it. I upgraded to this high efficiency water heater, and man, my gas bill went from like $7,000 down to like $500.
Whoa.
Yeah, talk about cash back right there, done. You know, and we did that for the annex right before we got shut down too. Things like that you wouldn't think of. One of the biggest things that was a difference, and I can tell now, looking back at the previous owner, I like the guy, I'm not gonna say who it was, but the previous owner saw this coming. He saw the writing on the wall that the boiler and chiller system were dying. And I noticed that a lot of the rooms had already been wired for PTAC units, right? Now, PTAC units, packaged thermal area unit, it's what you see in every hotel nowadays, right? The only catch-22 is it exhausts a lot of heat into the dome or wherever, you know. To make the room inside cold, the outside of it needs to be hot. So that's the catch-22. My boiler and chiller system went out. I called Brian Hegan and I asked him, well, how much is it going to cost to replace it? And they're like, well, we can probably get you in just south of like $1 million. So I'm like,
what?
I'm like, I just bought the place, you know, not that long ago for 1.5.
And what was your budget?
At that, the $200,000 is what I borrowed. Yeah, that was for everything.
That's for everything.
That was for everything. Yeah, and so a PTAC unit costs $1,500, right? I have 110 rooms here, and at the time I had 55 rooms in the annex, which again, in my head, it was $10,000 to fix the annex, no big deal. You know, I think now we're closer to $500,000 is what we spent last year on it. So fun times.
Yeah.
Long story short, though, the biggest challenge at first was trying to keep that thing running and trying to keep the guests. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the $75 a night rate. I'm going to only get the nicest guests. You know. The problem with this place I see is that, you know, they have a lot of riffraff and everything like that. And I didn't really know anybody's story at that time. You know, I didn't realize that this hotel was kind of where people went for that low rate and everything like that. And so my thought was, okay, we'll just get
because you were new to Lincoln.
I was new to Lincoln. Yeah. I was new to hotels. I mean, nobody understands like the background of a hotel until you work in one. And the reality is you need your contractors, and there's nothing wrong with a good blue collar contractor. And that was the irony of me going back to the Oasis as a name. You know, my thought was, you know, friends in low places. And let me tell you what, we made a lot of a lot of friends with contracting companies, a lot of friends with people that would be able to come for an entire season, you know. But the problem was, so when I was trying to do $75 a night, I could rent out maybe 10 rooms because I had, you know, 20 nice rooms that I'd renovated, and they had PTAC units, and the guests were going to be happy and not complain. The problem was when I bought the place, my bills were in the $30,000, $40,000 range. Making $18,000, you know, $12,000 a month doesn't cut the bills. You know, or doesn't pay the bills.
And how long ago did you buy it?
I bought it, so it was at the end of, so I graduated college in 2013. I bought the hotel in 2013. So
okay.
It was literally the summer after graduating from UNL, business marketing college, right? And so Still, again, very young, very stupid, very, I knew everything. But, again, I'm not the type of person, and that's the nice thing about submarines too, or, the Navy, the military, anything at all. We don't give up. If you want to hire somebody that's going to make sure that, hire a veteran. And long story short, we've been pushing and pushing and pushing to make it work for the last 7 years. And our plan originally was to rent out high end. When we realized that didn't work because everything was broken and I needed to pay the bills, we had to change our goals. We had to say, okay, this isn't going to happen in 1 year anymore. My goal was to be making, millions of dollars a year, no problem by the end of, the 3-year period. That's not realistic, What we had to do is we had to say, okay, let's take a step back. Let's look at stuff. And actually, this is because the recruiter from Wyndham came to check out my property. They were looking at me for maybe possibly getting on a flag. The Wyndham flag we now have, Travelodge.
When was that?
So this was about
when they came out.
This is about 3-year point.
Okay.
I was a little insulted by the idea of Travelodge. No, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, no, I want to be Days Inn. He's like, you're not Days Inn. And he goes, what are you gonna do with this massive pool? It needs to be something that would make sense. He goes, this inside area doesn't work for today anymore. He goes, Paul, you need to realize something. You have the market on long terms in Lincoln, whether or not you want to accept it or not. I know you think that you want to have high-end guests, and I know you think that charging $75 a night is what you're doing, but in reality, you're giving out discounts, so everybody's at 50 or 45. He goes, you own the long-term market in Lincoln. He goes, nobody can compete with you. You have more rooms. You're able to undercut anybody, right? And I said, all right. He goes, I said, well, where do I go from there? He goes, well, if you make X, Y, and Z improvements, we want to see all this stuff happen in order for you to join the brand. We can get you from there. But for right now, just focus on trying to slowly improve your client base, right? So rather than having, the majority of your tenants be locals that are not eligible for housing, try to make it more into contractors that are
in town.
That are in town for short jobs. Try to make sure that you're getting. You want the long terms, but you want to make sure that it's vetted long terms, right? So it's that hard thing too. And again, I'm from New Mexico. We're the type of people that, mi casa, su casa, I want to help everybody. When a friend asks for help, you help them, so, and people started catching on to that. And I got to the point where I don't like seeing people struggle. So I wanted to help out people. So I made a lot of exceptions that I regret, huge lesson learned. Give people chances, sure, but maybe don't help them in your own house, help them out in other ways. I forget the name of the reporter that was talking to me, but he asked me, he goes, well, how are you guys going to help people if your goal is going to be to try to cater to a higher clientele when you open back up? And I said, well, we've been talking about that. We think maybe we might either open a charity or we might try to donate to charities or try to do some kind of fundraising thing. Because again, I still think that the hardest thing for me to look at in Lincoln, especially since I've become so connected with it, is the homeless situation in Lincoln. And I've had so many people reach out to me. Hey, Paul, I know that, you can't have anybody stay there, but can you help me out? I have to say no, because otherwise I'd end up with the same issues that we had before. We'd have, so how do you help out those people without having to put yourself and your family? Because at the end of the day, at this point, it's costing me time with my family. At this point, those mistakes of generosity are costing me, life, So, I mean, how do you help out people without becoming part of the drama? And so that's something we're playing with. And, we're probably looking at the direction of trying to either help them out on the construction side. I'm willing to hire anybody on a construction demo team. I usually send out people to try from the mission. We say, hey, send somebody down. Let's see if they want to get on payroll. What's your situation? I have this property we're gonna be demoing or whatever. Would you like to work $10 an hour? It's honest. It's an honest day's work. And so I'm willing to pick up anybody for that. My other thoughts are, we can start some type of charity to try to help it. I get that it's an issue that the city's trying to address, but the answer is not just to make all the homeless not seen. I mean, and that's kind of how they're fighting right now. They're like, okay, well, there's an issue right here. The Oasis was catering to a lot of people. I know in one of the news articles they said we were the last chance before the mission or something. And my thought was, there still needs to be somewhere or some way to help them. How do you move that? So
you had mentioned earlier about getting shut down.
Yeah.
I guess, can you give us more details on like what happened there?
So I actually have it framed.
And if you could go from how you explain, like, the numbers, how they were looking at the beginning. So, but you weren't even making half of, so if you could go from that to answer his question, to keep the timeline there.
Yeah. And you're welcome to cut out that whole piece there. I just mumble on about.
No, it's important.
I have a certain vision with that kind of stuff. I still want to help out those people, so, all right. So when I first bought the hotel, it was making about half of what it cost to run the place. Right. Our electric bill was very high. Our water bill was very high. I actually posted the exact numbers on that one talk I did. I think it was somewhere around maybe we were bringing in around 20,000, and I think the bills were right around 37,000 or so. And so that was the beginning, and that was with everything operating as the city had, apparently they approved the previous owner operating in that way. It doesn't make sense financially. When I got shut down, my numbers were finally making sense. We were bringing in between 50 and 70,000 a month. And because I had upgraded everything to LED, I had upgraded all the TVs to flat screen. I'd upgraded everything to energy efficient, this or that. Like I said, I upgraded water heaters. I got rid of the old boiler and chiller system. I fixed all the plumbing. And when I say I don't mean me personally. I mean, I had plumbers, electricians come out and fix this stuff. And over the course of time, 110 rooms in the hotel were remodeled. The annex building, which was previously
how many rooms is there total?
So in the hotel, 110, and the annex originally was 55, and now it's 28.
Okay.
So when I bought the hotel, the annex was condemned. Now it's 28 ready to rent apartment units. We'll have managed by a premier property management company. And whatever price they decide to rent it out at, that's what it'll be. I'll just be out of that equation. But so when we shut down, we were making about 70,000 a month. So we were 50 to 70,000 a month, I should say. Majority of that was from long terms. So the nice thing about that is we didn't have to pay, all the crazy extra taxes that were kind of a burden on the previous owners, I feel, but we were able to start investing in things that made sense to upgrade the property to the next level. Like I said, water heaters. I had just put in a new fire control panel, which by itself is, I think, $14,000, maybe $10,000. It was this huge ticket item that needed to get done. If you look around, all my doors have these RFID locks. You can see that we replaced those, I think, over the course of the videos, actually. That was an $80,000 upgrade. Wow. There's just a lot of stuff that we had been putting off until we finally were making money. And that's kind of how 2020 started. It was the year that we finally were in the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So January is where everything kind of started going downhill for me, right? So January, hotel was doing great. I had just came to Lincoln to fix and flip to have some extra cash to do the next set of renovations on the annex building. We did this beautiful renovation on this townhouse. And that's when I started realizing that I couldn't really use my tools like I used to. My hands weren't working, and my fingers were numb, and I couldn't hold my drill straight, And so that was when I was like, okay, I probably should see a doctor. So we finished remodeling that thing, and so in 3 days, I had 3 very important conversations. The first day, and again, I get the order of these backwards, so I might say it differently. But the first day, I had a call from my doctor saying, "Hey, look, you have 30 days to live if you don't come and have this surgery. Okay, you have severe spinal stenosis. You have swelling of your spinal cord. You shouldn't pick up anything more than 3 pounds." And I'm like, I just picked up the stupid marble vanity all the way up the stairs. I'm fine to pick up stuff. He goes, "No, if you fall, you could die at this point." And so I had that phone call. The next day, I had a call from Sean from Building and Safety, and he said, "Hey, Paul, I have some bad news for you. The city has decided that we are not happy with the progress you've made on the hotel." I'm like, "What do you mean? We're finally making a profit. It's finally making sense. Just give me the end of the year, and I can make this stuff. I can show you that the hotel is turning around as far as numbers." And I've tried showing numbers. They don't care about numbers. They care about, and I get it. I personally I don't want the hotel to fail. nobody wants to own an ugly motel.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to have that shining, beautiful Hyatt Inn or whatever. Everybody wants the Wyndham Gardens. Nobody wants the ghetto property. So in my best interest, it makes sense for me to want to keep going. But so they said the city's not happy with your progress. We've decided not to renew your certificate of occupancy. I said, well, is there a reason? Is there a reason specifically is there something I didn't fix? Is there something that I can fix? And I told him, I said, I just got the news that I'm dying. Is there something I can?
So this was literally the next day.
The next day. Wow. I literally told him that. I was like, I just got the news that I'm dying. So I'm like, what the heck do you do? He goes, sorry, Paul, it's just what the city, it's above my head. It's the group of people that they're called the PRT team, the property renovation team, property improvement team, or something like that. It's this group of people that control what happens, who succeeds and who fails in Lincoln, right? Out of the bigger things. They don't like this property, and I'm like, well, that sounds like communism to me, And I never want to get political on this stuff. I'm not right. I'm not left. I'm like, that doesn't sound fair. I put my money in this place. I put 7 years of my life in this place, and now I'm dying. And you're telling me that you guys have decided that you feel something's a certain way. That doesn't make sense to me. And I said, what about all the people that are staying there? How long do they get? Well, they'll have 30 days to move out. I'm like, no, okay, I'm going to fight this. And from what I understand, this notice went out to several other hotels also. Nobody else publicly fought them, and they're still open because they made agreements. I probably should have taken, out a lawyer and done this stuff, but I'm stubborn. I'm stupid. I'm still learning the lessons. I'm still always going to be that person that's going to say, no, this isn't fair. By principle, I'm going to fight it. And so the next day, I got a call from Wyndham saying, hey, congratulations. The inspection we did in November, we've decided
so crazy to open the event,
the timing,
man, it was literally the next day. And I said, well, what do I do? The city just told me that I haven't made enough progress. And he goes, no, you've met all of our stuff, all the stuff that we wanted to see happen. Everything else, we can just help you, guide you to get up to standards. And I said, okay, well, if I shouldn't worry about it, he goes, no, don't worry about this. Most cities, sometimes their goal is just to see that things are improving, and it makes sense. If you pass Wyndham standards, then obviously you pass building and safety standards. And so then it was this weird thing where back and forth. I mean, I didn't want surgery. I've never had surgery before. I didn't want it. And plus on my spinal cord, it was the most anxious thing. And, again, I was 32, I think. How old am I now? I'm 33. So it had to be 32. So, I mean, it was one of those things that I shouldn't be dying, And anyhow, so I got surgery, and then I'm high on all these pain meds, and I'm having to try to fill out the paperwork to try to push the city's revocation of my COC license down the thing. So I probably didn't have the best ability to fight the situation anyway. I mean, I literally, so the hardest thing to recover from is spinal cord surgery, right? And or spinal surgery. Most people, take a year, 6 months at least, off. And I'm like, okay, let's figure out how to walk again. I remember it was the weirdest thing. I couldn't even use my legs. I had to use my arms to hold myself up. And I had this nurse intern come in, and she had to help me use the urinal cup. And I'm like, this is the most awkward thing ever. It was a weird situation to be in. And the whole time it was weird to have your business. I'm like, well, if I die, I just left my family with this thing that I thought was making progress. I led my family to this place where, we took all this risk to try to invest in Northeast Lincoln. I'm like, no, follow me. Come on. It's almost there. Here's the numbers. It's almost there. And I have everybody else behind me. And then to just have it all swept up underneath, from underneath you, and being told that there's no actual hit list that you can work on. That was the frustrating thing. It wasn't like, hey, you forgot to change out something. It wasn't like you need to change a light bulb. You need to fix this. It's like, no, there's been a history of issues. And they made it sound like that I had all these issues all happening right this second too. And inside the paper, inside the revocation thing, it said, you had an older fire control system. Like I literally replaced that a month ago. It's brand new, So why are you including that in anything? The property had issues with bugs in the past. I'm like, well, of course, over the last decade, everybody's going to have a bug thing. We have a bug company. What do you want from me? The bug company makes sure we don't have bug things. They said we've had problems with tenants in the past. I'm like, I'm not the one making the problems. Have the police arrest the person if it's an offense. Otherwise, why is this the owner's problem? My goal is to get to the next step. If along the way you guys aren't happy that it's going to require a little bit of suffering. I mean, it's suffering on my part. You guys aren't the ones paying the taxes, And again, I had to pay. So here's another fun thing. The same year they shut us down, they doubled my taxes. So that means
because of it went up in value.
Apparently,
systems.
So of course I challenged that this year. I'm like, last year I was too high too, but this year I was like, what? Excuse me, you guys shut me down. Here's my list of the reasons you guys said that I haven't made any improvements. Why did you double my taxes?
Because you made improvements. You got taxes.
What the heck, man?
Wow.
So that's how the YouTube thing started. He goes, well, nobody can tell that you've made these improvements. I'm like, you know what? Fine. All right. I'll show everybody, I'll show everybody. And I'm not a social person. I'm not the type of person I like to hide in the background, just do my thing, focus on my thing, and I hate going to the stupid dinner, luncheon things. I hate shaking hands. I hate meeting, no offense, I avoided a lot of podcast things for a while now. And I prefer just to do my own thing and, just do that. But now it's like, well, I have no choice. If I'm going to succeed, I either have to A, work for the government, or B, I have to try to fight it at some point and say, hey, look, we still need freedom here in Lincoln. We're not freaking California. I know we're slowly becoming California. And I know that all these little, these control things where they're like, no, this is what we're going to do. Now you have to prove that we can't do it. I don't want to become that situation. I think that there needs to be more business owners that are like, no, hey, I just like to feed my family, please. Please let me do my thing. So I don't know. But yeah, that's how the YouTube channel was started. And I'm like, look, guys, it's all a lot of cosmetic stuff. I fixed all the systems. Now I literally was planning to do this stuff anyway. So I'm going to show you what I'm spending the money on. The director of building and safety. This guy, his name is, dang it. Chad. So this guy, I like him a lot, but also at the same time, I'm kind of scared of him because he doesn't have a personality. He kind of has, he's very much so just, yes, this is, I understand you, I feel you, but I'm like, no, you're not understanding me. You're agreeing with me, But so this guy, he comes in and he said, you know what, look, focus on the annex, get the annex going. And if you get that open and we'll let you open that annex building, And I said, fine. That's what I'll focus on then. I'll get it open in 60 days. And so that was my first challenge, right? And in the meeting, I actually posted his response to me. And you can find that on YouTube. I'm going to leave that presentation on YouTube until we're allowed to open at least the annex building. There's some other little hidden Easter eggs people haven't found throughout that thing too. But so anyhow, I posted on there the letter from him. He goes, we're impressed with the progress you've made. However, we do not feel at this time that the history of the property is worth, and they said that they didn't expect me to actually get it done. And I'm like, well, that's great. If you expect, I paid extra to make sure it got done fast. I mean, again, we're in the middle of a labor shortage and, all this other stuff, material shortage. And I'm like, 60 days, let's get it done. Bam. Brand new roof, brand new railing, brand new everything, And if you look at my last video, there was a hit list of things that still need to get done. I agree. Now, at least I had a hit list, At least they're trying to work with me on a hit list. And again, I think that might come down to just a difference in personality types too. I'm the type of person where I see a project, I see a vision, and I need to hand it off to a very conservative type person that can go by the numbers and checklist it off, And that's where building a safety right now is kind of finally giving me a checklist. I'm like, yep, I can fix that. Great. Now that we have a checklist, let's move forward. And I hope that, they keep to their word this time. Because again, what does that say about small business in Lincoln? Why are we investing our money here? If they can at any point pull the rug out from underneath us, if at any moment they can just come in and say, we don't like what you're doing, we're taking all your money, or we're taking your entire investment. This property, thanks to the whole chaos that's happened, I don't want to get you demonetized, but thanks to the pandemic of the last year, the property value has risen substantially. I told you that I bought it for 1.5 million. I owe 2 million on it. And a little bit over 2 million actually, because I took out that EIDL thing too. But it's now worth, I had a broker estimate. He goes, on the low end, if you just want to fly it off the shelf, the whole land that's out there, the Superior side is worth the most money. It's just grassland on Superior for development. He goes, very low end, 5 million, higher end, 8 to 10 million. So, I mean, there's a lot of equity that I'm sitting on. It's just a matter of, do I give up? Do I throw in the towel? And, Lincoln feels like home to me. I don't want to be at that point where I'm giving up on home or, giving up all the people that, wanted to see Northeast Lincoln succeed, and I think, I don't know. I think it's worth trying to finish the project if I can, but it might just end up being that I take somebody's check for $5 million or whatever and, go do other projects.
So you have, you talked about having that annex, and it's how many units?
So it's 28 units.
So is that part of the hotel, or is that just a separate apartment?
Right now, so I own the entire 7 acres between Cornhusker Highway and Superior, right? So the whole thing, whether developed, undeveloped, it's mine. Little bit of argument on whether or not that street there on 52nd I'm allowed to do anything with. If I'm not, if the city has any say in it, they should be maintaining my potholes. So, I mean, if we get into that argument, I expect them to come out and fill them in, So, Mayor, if you could take care of that.
That'd be great.
So the plan moving forward is no matter what, I think we're gonna subdivide the property because again, it's an elephant. I think that's one of the issues. We're gonna separate it into north and south. We've already got estimates back. We're gonna have Renee Mueller and her team from KW Lead up in Columbus. They have a property management team here, Premier Property Management. They're going to be managing that side and the development process going forward. So we have it planned that if we have permission to open the annex, once we have those contracts in place, once those units are rented out, and again, my goal is I was hoping to try to get students. And again, I get you can't discriminate on who, but again, based on when you have your timeline, and since everything's brand new back there, brand new carpet, brand new furniture, brand new everything, it's just, I want to make sure that it's something where we have a co-signer, So my goal would be to try to have it like last week, rent it out. And once we have those contracts in place, we have Exarban Bank, which if you haven't looked into them for entrepreneurs, they're extremely helpful. They understand how to use different forms of income. I'm sure you understand most of my income is passive income. On paper, I make like $0, and this year, negative. So they're really good at that. So if I could show, look, I'm cash flowing this much from that building, then that'll allow me to do a couple things. My plan is going to be to pay off my back taxes because 2020 I didn't pay my taxes. So I need to pay off those first. That's my number one concern. I like to stay on top of that kind of chaos. Separate the property. And then third is going to be to develop the rest of that grassland out there into multifamily housing, apartment building type stuff. I've never had a business partner, like an actual business partner. I've always been kind of scared of the horror stories that I hear about business partners. But I think in this situation, I'd be willing to take on investors for that. There's a couple people. That's the whole reason why I'm getting inside of I'm starting to socialize a little bit with the investors group in Lincoln. I want to kind of figure out who are the thinkers, who are the people that are going to be making the waves, and so I'm just trying to see how people operate, and kind of testing the waters there. But the goal would be to develop that into more housing for Lincoln, hopefully using a little bit of the TIF financing. But Exarban has said, look, we'll write you a check just for the annex and that land over there. We'll write you a check. It'll more than pay off my note for the building. Then my current bank, which I don't know if they want me to release who's lending to me. So my current bank has offered to use this side, because this side of the hotel will be paid off. I'll have a literally paid off hotel, which is my goal for 2021, in case you're wondering, pay off a hotel. I'll have this as a giant HELOC. And so my wife is basically said, you need to refill the stupid savings account. So I'll probably be doing some property flips going forward. I have a contract with Wyndham. As you can see, I have the flags up, even though we're not open, because they believe in us. And this is a huge exception. And they literally did it just to show the city of Lincoln that they're behind us. Inside of all their stuff, it says, if you don't have a COC, you're not able to open. They made an exception for us, and they've offered to get behind it and fight. And I'm like, I don't want to go down those paths. My inspectors are awesome. There's not an issue with my inspectors. There's an issue with bureaucracy. There's an issue with some things that I think that are wrong that we need to fix. But my inspectors are there to make sure that everybody's happy and try to fix the issue of this property having the history that it's had. I agree that it's had a poor history. I think we have two different ways of attacking the issue. Their issue is to legislate it, just shut them down. And they don't understand that a giant empty building is just basically asking for more trouble. We had a break-in guy. I like to mess with the people when they try to break in. I have a sign up somewhere around here that says, if you break in, you're asking us to please taser or pepper spray you, because I like to play, games. So we welcome it. Well, I shouldn't say but we haven't had any issues like that because people also know my sense of humor. And again, I know the majority of Lincoln at this point, it feels like. My approach would be to continue to improve this building. And I think that you need somebody that's willing to, one that already knows how she works. Again, it has its own personality, it has its problems, it has a bunch of stuff that you don't understand until you buy the hotel. And then you have to have kind of a plan going forward that other people kind of believe in. And I see this as being a landmark of Lincoln. I want to see the pool going again. I might have to section it off so that way I can actually air condition it, but I want to see this develop into being a hot spot, like almost a tourist attraction, and I want to have some fun stuff where you're coming here because you want to see, the cool museum type thing or the cool attraction or the cool whatever, I have a huge space. I could do a selfie museum. I can do some type of aquarium wall type thing. I could do a lot of cool stuff in here. I've got the height to do it. There's just so much potential. And I'm willing to invest the money in it. I'm willing to keep going with it because I'm insane, So that's my plan moving forward with this. Accidentally this year, I also started a couple other companies. Holt Homes, remodeling properties. I also have been buying a couple of properties and either renting them out for additional cash flow or with the intention of flipping them. I actually have a large group of people in St. Louis who have started following me and are trying to get me to come back to St. Louis. I put out a test post yesterday on shower remodel just to kind of see the two different markets. And I'm the type of person I like to kind of watch. I like to watch how things happen. So I wanted to see how Lincoln market responded to my $2,000 tile deal and how St. Louis did. My phone was exploding this morning with phone calls. I put my poor assistant's number on there, and she had 6 bathrooms this morning that she had to get back to me on. My phone had all these requests to reach out to me from Facebook. Somehow people got my number through backtracking it through Holt Enterprises, and I was like, "What the heck, guys?"
Internet, man, it's easy to do it now.
I guess there's a lot of good tilers here in Lincoln, and not so much in St. Louis, or maybe there's just that much of a construction lag in St. Louis. But so I've been looking at, okay, well, where do I want to go from there? Because again, it costs me quite a bit of money to keep this place just floating if I'm not allowed to open. So if the city says, "No, we've changed our mind, we're just not going to let you open," then at that point, I'm probably just going to be like, well, okay, well, I gave it my best shot. I'm going to keep going with my personal properties that are actually making money. I'm going to keep going with either flips or other stuff like that. I might pay off the taxes just so that way this property sits here. And then, I don't know, maybe I'll make it into like a laser tag arena or something. I don't know. But I mean, I think that if the city doesn't let me open up the annex, if nothing else, it'll be a huge testament to the idea that Lincoln isn't ready for business development. I think it's a big red flag to a lot of investors that for bigger stuff, if you can't, they don't let you grow to a certain point or they shut you down. So a little bit of negativity there.
With the headache that you've kind of had with this place, I think that the biggest thing that comes to mind for me is, whether you decide to keep it, sell it, repurpose it, whatever you're going to do, would you do it again, knowing back then what you know now?
Yep. I actually got asked that at the thing I spoke at too. I have learned so much in such a short period of time. I work 18-hour days, which again is for guys that are in the military. They're like, "Ha, yeah, 18 hours.
That's cute."
Yeah, cute. Yeah. So you're telling me you have time off. So I have worked so much and learned so much in a short period of time. This last year has been probably the most expensive and also the most, it's been like you watch Dragon Ball Z where he goes inside of like the time chamber and like he has to like train super hard in a short period of time and times dilate. That's what this year has been like. It's been like a pressure pot, you know. And I've sat there and I've learned the politics of Lincoln. Two, I've met some interesting people. I could finance a house on a text message. Which reminds me, I have a series coming up soon, How to Wholesale a House, or another one that I was thinking of was 3 different ways to make $50,000 in Lincoln, Nebraska. Because again, I like to play with things, you know. Yeah. So I did one of those things this last month. I'm working on the second one. I have a third one that I'm playing with. But I like to just see what the market does inside of certain areas. So I've learned so much this last year specifically, but yeah, I would 100% do it again.
Other owners that like want you in their team, and
I've had some interesting job offers. Before this year, again, I don't know how many billionaires I knew. Now I know a few, which is also awesome. It doesn't help that some of them have become billionaires because of this year, because they were investing in real estate, and all of a sudden everything just like quadrupled, and they were in the right place at the right time. I have a guy that wants me to do his podcast out of California, one out of Florida. I'm like, you know what? If I get the time and you want to fly me down, and you know what, maybe I'll do it. Or we can do a virtual thing. That would be fun. One guy does financing for hotels. He's the one out of California that I think would be great. The other guy I was talking about earlier, Bruce Jordan, give him another shout out. Because literally we ended up talking for hours. He calls me. He's like, what the heck are you doing, man? Just sue the city. Here's your rights that were infringed on. I'm like, we don't do that in Lincoln, man. This is a small town. We should still be at the point where we know our banker by name. We should still be at the point where we know who we elected. We should still be at the point where small business should grow. It should be about the hardest working individual in the room is able to succeed, and I just believe in Lincoln. I don't believe in us becoming that we shouldn't have to resort to that kind of stuff. We are Lincoln, so I don't know. I just have a different belief in what I should be doing with it. If I have to at the very end, I mean, again, money is money, and I have to, recuperate the cost of this last year. But I'm hoping that this works out in the right way, and then at the end we have something really nice to show for it. So I would 100% do it again. I would do it differently. 2020, I would have said, looking back in 2020, not at the year, but in hindsight, there are so many things I would have done differently that would have saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars that I know now that if I bought another hotel, I could save so much money. I can do almost everything myself at this point, Do
you think now you have the confidence based off? Yeah. I mean, because I don't know if it could get any worse than what you've dealt with. So I'm like, I feel like any other hotel you buy now is just going to be cake,
Yeah. Well, that was the joke that I've had several people that are like, most people that start off at hotels, they start off at 35 if they're really young, right? And so the guy that made the and I laughed at this a couple of years back because I saw him on the front page. And I don't socialize a lot with the hotel owners either. Now I have quite a few that are friends that have either called me, hey, I own 28 hotels up in Ohio. I'm like, that's cool. I have one. Why are you calling me? They're like, you don't ever start. 2 rules. You never start off with an old hotel. Those are passion projects when you're extremely rich. Or 2, you don't start off with one as big as the one you did. Why did you do that? And so looking forward, any advice for anyone that ever wants to go from housing in apartments to hotels, start off with a 15 or 20 unit. Get an idea of how the systems work. There's a bunch of fees you don't know about. There's a whole gang of third-party people you have to learn how to fight. There's figuring out the right and wrong flags to fly because some of them give you a lot of value. I really love what Wyndham's. I've never had anybody fight for me this much as Wyndham. They've gone personally to the city. They've gone personally to my insurance agents. Obviously, I get huge discounts with third-party vendors and stuff like that. They've got insane negotiated pricing on stuff. If any hotel people out there are interested, they are a sponsor of mine now too. So if you want to sign up, say TheUglyMotel, and I'll give you their contact information. I get a little $10,000 bonus. So
cool.
So crazy question, but what's next?
What's next? If this thing is done, I don't know.
And just overall, like what's next, man?
So that's actually a really hard question. Right now, I'm in panic mode, right? So I just want to see. So if the annex opens and it's cash flowing, I got a loan for $2 million set aside for that. That'll pay for the rest of this chaos, right? Then we want to move my family down here because obviously the hardest part is being away from my kids when they're 1 and 3 years old. Yeah. They don't understand it. You know, they came to visit me, and it sucks that they came to visit me, but they came down to Mahoney for the last week, and every night saying goodbye was the most emotional thing in the world. And they're like, "You coming back tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yeah, come back tomorrow." And you know, so that's really hard. It's really hard on my son, who's a 3-year-old, and he just doesn't get it. He's like, why are you leaving? And I'm like, well, I have to go work, you know. And it's hard on my wife. She's like, you're working 18 hours a day and you're not getting a paycheck. Yeah. So that's hard, you know. And a lot of people that don't do their entrepreneurial thing, they don't understand, you know, you're working 3 times as hard for nothing, you know. And I thought we were past that point. That's why we planned our family around this time period. And, you know, the next step is to move to Lincoln. If this falls apart and I have to sell it and everything like that, we'll do that. That'll be that. I'll probably go into something in engineering. I have some friends that are now working in aerospace. I think that'd be kind of fun. I might go back to school. So since I didn't use my full GI bill, I could go get my master's or doctorate or something like that, just to take time off and just do something easy for a little bit.
That's really the great thing about real estate investing, though, is that you know, but not just that, but it's, you know, you have all your other properties, but like you have an exit strategy,
right?
So like as bad as things have gotten here, you can still sell it,
right,
and make a great profit. And then if you want to go reinvest it into a different type of real estate,
just buy a hotel in Hawaii.
I mean, you can do whatever you want. You know, you have options.
My coffee sponsor is actually out of Hawaii.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. The aloha to yeah. So maybe. We have a veteran. So again, our goal is to support veteran organizations and to help homeless populations if we're able to get going, if the city allows us to, if the Crown sees fit. Our coffee sponsor has been approved by Wyndham now, and so now they're a Wyndham approved coffee brand. So I was their doorway in for that, which is fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we have this cool line of just Navy themed coffees that'll be coming out, and they'll be, you know, for everybody here. But
I love your story, man. Cause, and I was telling Dan, it's like, if there's a definition of fighter, it's like,
like I mean, you face a lot of adversity just to try to keep running, and then you get shut down, and now you're doing everything you can.
And like you said, there's definitely an exit, you know. So I'm hoping it's the exit that you would like, obviously.
I'm interested in following the story and seeing kind of what happens.
For sure.
Check us out, TheUglyMotel.com, or, you know, YouTube, The Ugly Motel. We're almost monetized now, which is nice. You know, originally my plan was to have a lot more business, like centered type stuff, and have like personal finance stuff, you know, how to make your first million, how to do passive income with stuff.
But that's what's crazy and lovely about your story, is that all that is going to come. Like I can see that, you know, you've fought through it, and there's going to be all these different things that you're going to be able to do from this hole that you were put in, basically. And to kind of transfer into that, we always ask the same questions our guests, and I am very interested in hearing, and this is for wisdom. And, you know, we have a lot of people out there that maybe haven't made any type of jump or anything. Looking back at everything you've dealt with and everything you've done, and if you had to give yourself advice, your younger self, what is that advice that you would tell yourself right now?
Oh, number one, don't buy the bar. So Jesse used to own the bar Lucky's here, right? And him and I we're both very stubborn people. And when I bought the hotel, I lowered down the rent a little bit on it so he could survive. And then he started doing great. I mean, he's, you know, doing great. I'm like, okay, time to raise the rent back up like we agreed. And he goes, I don't know, bud. I'll let you buy it off me. I'm like, what? No. He's like, I don't want to raise up the rent. I'm like, but you got to. So we agreed. He goes, I don't know about that. I love the guy now. The guy's, you know, it's so much wisdom behind, you know, just those kind of noises. You know? And he goes, I'll help you out with it if you want to. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I can make double, you know, because he was making $40,000 a month off the bar. And
wow.
Yeah, I mean, if that took 100% of my time, I have zero desire to ever get behind, because that is a level of stress that I would say that was even probably more than this. I loved it because I love socializing in a certain way, as a host or something like that. I enjoy that portion. But when somebody calls in and can't work the shift, and now you have to give up your plans for the night to come work a shift, or you have some drunk person doing something stupid, or you're the drunk person doing something stupid, and I mean, there's just lessons upon lessons upon lessons that, I wish that I could have told myself, hey, don't buy that bar, because him paying his rent, even if it was $1,000 less, save you so much headache, could focus on the hotel. I would say stay focused on one project at a time also. These video games here, I mean, for a while there, they were producing an extra $5,000 a month. I built a laundromat that, was making some nice money. ATM, obviously, billboard, great good passive income. A lot of little passive income things that just kind of kept going. But the number one thing, don't take on an extra active income source while you're currently working on an active income source.
And that's one thing I've noticed with you, Paul, is that you've taken more of that passive side of things, even like the music playing on the background.
That's I mean, it's not much money, but
yeah, it adds up.
If anyone
your
wants
YouTube channel, once you hit that milestone, I mean, which you're almost there too, which is great. I think you definitely deserve you deserve anything that comes your way right now. And the next question that I have for you is, if there was a 3-step formula for success, what is it?
Well, I guess number one would be stop overthinking it and do it. That's number one. The second thing is to have a savings account when you're doing it, set your money aside. And the third is to remember to pay yourself. So, I mean, any business can be profitable if you look at it right and cash flows right. I think any business can be profitable. Heck, my claw machine over there is profitable if you look at it the correct way. I mean, it's crazy profitable. But if you're looking at something and you're thinking about it too much, you don't actually jump off the cliff. That's where 90% of people get stuck, because they're not willing to take that risk. They're not willing to try to buy the house. They might know that they're going to make $40,000 off the house, but they're like, well, then it'll be uncomfortable. And, I don't like that adversity, this is where me and my wife kind of differ a little bit. I'll be the one to jump off the cliff, and she's the one to say, hey, well, how about a rope first, So just actually getting out there and doing it, not overthinking it. The savings account has definitely saved my butt this last year. And not taking on any debt except for my mortgage, saved my butt. Again, it goes back to that idea of, live within your means, don't overspend yourself. I probably could have done this whole thing faster if I took out debt. And there's so much stuff that I learned this last year on resources I didn't realize were available, that now I can do a lot faster now that I have the knowledge, What did I say was number 3?
No, you haven't hit number 3. So savings was number 2.
It was savings, and then what was the third one? There was
what is number 3? Because I don't think you.
No, I think he did. He mentioned it. Why did I?
No, I don't think he did. I think it was do it, savings, and then what's the third one? Because I want to know, man. And just come up with one.
Right. Yeah. I again, so those are the biggest things. Just actually get out there and do it. Make sure you save for it. And I guess no regrets. I don't know. That's a good third one. You're gonna make mistakes. Just accept that you learn from the mistakes. And let's say, the worst case scenario, let's say I go bankrupt from this thing. Okay. Let's say that there's no way out. Nobody wants to buy it. They just go bankrupt. Well, now I have all the knowledge of how to buy a hotel. Heck, I know how to even buy a hotel bankrupt. I watched people do that recently. There's so much knowledge that you have just from maintaining. $10 million
knowledge right there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't buy that. You can't. There's no one that'll teach it to you. Well, except unless you subscribe to my channel.
There you go.
But again, there's no other book out there that shows you how to do this kind of stuff. And sometimes experience is the number one thing. So don't regret the mistakes you make along the way, because they are who you are today, and they give you the lessons to look back on. So yeah.
Love it. And to transition, you mentioned book. If you were to write a book, and on any subject, it doesn't have to be hotel, but maybe you should do that niche right there.
No, I've had
what would be the title, and what would the book be about?
I've had a lot of people, especially the Patels, not necessarily the Lincoln Patels, but so the Patels own a lot of hotels in the United States right now, right? Huge, just kind of behind the scenes owners of everything. They own a lot of the wealth. And I've had a lot of them reach out to me, and they think I should write a book just called The Ugly Motel, a list of, how to buy, the mistakes I've made, lessons learned kind of stuff. And they said they'd all buy it. So there's the first book, and the second book. I've always wanted to write a personal finance book, because I think that's the hardest thing for people. There's so many lessons you learn in school that just don't really matter. I've used calculus maybe like 3 times outside of college. Or
You've used it?
Yeah. And again, I have to pay an engineer to double check it anyway.
I'll say like the engineering thing is probably where it came up.
I mean, it's
right.
It's one of those things. It's like, well, okay, why has no one ever taught you how to become rich? It's so freaking easy. You could do it if you just have extra time.
That's intentional though. It's not part of the plan, for the way things are right now. So,
well, yeah, no, I agree. I think I agree with you 100%. I think the plan is to have a large group of people that don't know how to be, because, well, then there's more for those that do.
Right.
So,
love it. And Dan has a question for you.
Yeah, I usually like to
wrap
ask,
up everything.
After hearing everything that you've got going on, what your plans are for the future, is there anything that any of our listeners out there can bring to you that would be of value to you right now, other than a meeting with the mayor?
Yeah, that's the meeting with the mayor. A meeting with I'd like to sit down with the governor too. It'd be kind of fun. Well, so right now, I guess subscribe to me on YouTube. Cool. Yeah, bring me that. Subscribe, press the like button on YouTube. Help me get to that 1,000 mark. Check out our journey. That would be awesome. That's what I'm looking for right now. If you want to blow up the city's phone and tell them let me open, I mean, I'm not going to tell you no. So,
all right.
That's amazing. And make sure you guys subscribe to his channel. And
do you have like an Instagram or anything?
Yeah. So the Ugly Motel around. So Twitter, I just started Twitter too. So Twitter, Instagram. Again, my Instagram is more of just kind of my side projects. I don't post any of my side projects on YouTube. A lot of them are just usually how I'm paying the bills right now, tile work and flooring. If you guys are looking for something like that, let me know. HoltENT.com for that. But if you want to check out our hotel projects, I say projects because there might be another one coming. We'll see. That's TheUglyMotel.com. And buy a t-shirt, hey. Yeah.
Amazing, man. This has been amazing. Again, thanks for having us. Everybody out there listening, make sure you guys follow Paul, and then don't forget to follow us on Instagram, that Minority Report Podcast. And then we're also on YouTube, the Minority Report Podcast, and everywhere else with audio. So let's get it, baby. Vámonos.
My hand to please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate. Minority Report, can't ignore. Being rich from poor and your credit score. My hand to please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate.